Casual Magic has been brought to you by CoolStuffInc, where you can get cool stuff. Use the code CASUAL to get 5% off of your sale. And then also by Coalesce Apparel, where you can get really cool t-shirts and stuff, and use the code CASUALMAGIC to get 10% off your sale. And by Archidekt, a deck hosting website that doesn't really sell anything, but they like me and I like them, so kindly use them. And now, on to the show. Hello and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic the Gathering. My name is Shivan Putt. Casual Magic is brought to you by Coalesce Apparel, CoolStuffInc, and Archidekt. Today, I have a very, very special guest, somebody that a lot of y'all have been requesting for quite some time now, and that I've actually been trying to get to work for like months, but time zones. Your friend and mine, the foul-mouthed chef, TikToker, CDHer who breaks Dargo left and right. My dude, Hermit Druid, has joined me today, and we're going to be talking food and high-end magic, which is two things that I like food. Hey, bro, how's it going?
I'm going. It's great. It's good to finally be here. We've been talking on Twitter for the better part of
Months?
years now, and it's good to finally I think it was last year we were like, oh no, we should totally work out on the podcast, and then it's like then life happens.
Yeah, right. And it's like,
So here we are.
Yeah, so we met up for the first time, I think, in GP Vegas like a dozen years. I mean, not some number of years ago.
Yeah.
Where you took a really cool picture of me with the gigantic planes that I had, that then became an internet meme. But that's fun. But the thing that got me, I was reading the other day. You tweeted that like you got into Magic like 2 years ago or something.
Yeah, I got in just before the end of just before Rivals came out.
That is so recent.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing.
Like, okay, because I've been playing Magic since the dawn of time, right? So like everybody feels recent, but there's recent, and then there's like, yo, the packs you want are still on stores. Yeah. Okay, maybe they're not, but like that, I guess that's 4 years ago now.
Just about like we're heading into the fourth year. It was 3 we're heading into the fourth year. It's about this time anyways because it's my anniversary. Because in 2019, or I guess what was it, 2019, end of 2019, beginning of 2020, or it was end of 2019. I found CEDH. And
wait, you found CEDH just in 2019?
Yeah.
Dude, you're like one of the faces of the format now. How did this happen?
ADHD and getting massively involved in my hobbies.
I wouldn't know anything about that, he says at the 105th episode of his podcast.
Yeah, exactly. No. It takes a very motivated type. And like, I also have I have a mind that's constantly churning over things. And like, if I'm awake, I'm thinking. If I'm not, I'm stoned or sleeping.
Fair.
Like it's like, so when I have a hobby that like is it all consuming is Magic that I can play all the time, and like it's very much like I created a community because I wanted to have people to always bounce ideas off of or play games with, or like I needed that.
The audio can't see me, but I'm grinning and nodding right now because that's exactly why I got into this. Right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It's us white mana aligned people are just like community. Yes.
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, I'm here. Like, I got into like when I get into a hobby, I get super hard into my hobby.
Yeah.
Like I'm like deep. Like immediately, I find the most invested community I can, and then just decide I want to be a part of that. If not, like a high level, well known part of that. And that's how I weasel my way up and down into every random thing that I'm into, which is why somehow 10 years after after coming back to Magic, I'm one of the people in charge of the format I play. Like,
yeah.
How does that happen? It happened because I've got nothing else to do, and I'm like deeply devoted to making sure I always have people to talk to about the thing I like.
Yeah, and it turns out, and people were like, well, how have you gotten this far this fast? And it's like, well, it turns out when you spend 8 hours a day, every day, dedicated to one thing with like a rigorous mindset, you absorb quite a little bit, and you could like make some headway.
Yeah, right. Like it turns out that when you're just terminally online, like you and I are, this stuff is not too hard to do. all it is a function of time. And really, the main thing though is that if you find a community and you start just like if you really jam with them and you really connect, and then you just start talking and sharing cool things, if you're enthusiastic, and if your enthusiastic is so infectious that other people start to get into it and start to feel good about seeing your post, then it works out. If you're just one of those people who's like, an emotional dead weight that just drags people down into the depths, maybe you're not going to get the engagement and like friendships that you're going to find. But
And the stuff that you're gonna find, is it going to be that good?
no, but
Yeah.
if you're like hella jazzed and something like I don't play CDH.
Well,
Everybody knows this,
Anomaly is a fantastic
right?
case of that. Like her joy to play the game and like figuring out a combo and like or like
She came
Snow
out of
Queen Hawk.
nowhere,
Yeah,
and
like
like,
they're just both like these amazing
yeah,
content creators, and their content is literally just them posting crazy about like their
being
first
happy about
interactions
things.
about match, and like people just like soak up that dopamine.
Yeah, dude, like Hoth, Queen of Snow,
Yeah,
Anomaly, it's all these people who show up out of nowhere and are just like joy bombs, and you're like, this is what I want. I want
yeah,
people
yeah,
who are happy and excited and enthusiastic. Like, it's more fun when we're all having fun.
yeah,
And
yeah,
when we're,
yeah,
like, just excited to be here, right? Like, that's like, for instance, like I was about to say, I don't play CEDH. I don't play high-end Magic very much. I play mid to high-end Magic. I do enjoy powerful cards, but I don't like but you are so jazzed and enthusiastic and stoked about playing CDH and doing all these amazingly cool things. Love it. And I, like, super follow
That's
you. I
why I like
listen to all these things,
CDH, is
and
because
I'm
you
like,
can do that.
yeah, I know. I'm not here for it. That's not what I wanna do, but I
Yeah,
love watching it, and I love listening to it, and I like watching p I, more than anything, like to watch people be really happy about the thing they're doing because that makes me happy, right? So, like, when I see people who are super stoked about CDH or about, things that I'm just not into, like, I don't know, vintage or whatever, I'm super excited about it. I'm like, "All right, let's go. I am here to support your excitement."
yeah.
And so it makes me happy. And some of the decks though you put out are very they feel very non-standard CDH, which is why think I enjoy them so much. So it's like your Dargo sacrifice deck is so much fun, or like, Rebels Gigantha deck. Like, I love these things that they don't feel like traditional stock CDH decks, but they also do things I just would enjoy doing, making a
It's
ton of treasures.
yeah. I don't play like it's because I the decks I play and the decks I brew and the decks I do with is because I spent the first year of my time not playing my own decks.
Hmm.
I only played I played decks that like I felt like I had something to learn from. Like I avoided Timna Thrasios because I was just like I'm not going to learn everything. It's just all the good cards. It's just good.
Right.
It's like it's it's almost it's just too good. You're going to get false positives. Uh,
Well, you
so
don't
like
learn anything because it's just the
yeah,
best deck. It's good stuff pile.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like, okay, great. Do the
So I
comp
spent like 8 months playing Tasigur, and
Tassiger.
oh yeah, and like I, that's also one of the reasons why I become like known, especially among the people that I play with, is for my political edge and my
Mm.
wordplay. And you hone that. You learn how to when you play Tasigur, you learn how to play a table because you're keeping mana open. You've got all the answers in the world, and you're going to like you just need to convince somebody else to give it to you. And that's pretty easy. Especially it's easier in CDH because everybody's trying to win. So you turn to one person and go like, "Hey, this person's trying to win. Give me this counter spell back, or give me this like fierce guardianship back." And they're like, "Okay, I'll give you the fierce guardianship back. Okay, counter it." Then they're like, "Oh, okay," they lose. And then you go to the next rotation of the turntable, and that person that gave you the fierce guardianship back, they're trying to win, and you turn to the other person and go, "Well, they're trying to win. I need that fierce guardianship back." And they're like, "Oh yeah, okay." So you just sit there and like replay the same fierce guardianship 7 times for like, and then like you've got like you get like a mana reducer on Tasker's activated ability, or like a Seedborn Muse, so you get multiple Tasker abilities. So you're just like sitting there, you're just playing the entire table, just accruing value, and just like you can end up you got cards like Neoform that can turn Tasker into a into something else, which turns him into Razakath or into yeah, turn him into a Razakath, and all of a sudden you got a Razakath, and then you can just win from there.
Oh my god. this is just so much work. Like, I just wanna put out zombies. I wanna put out plants.
Oh, see, I that's my problem, like, when people wanted me to play Magic like that, I was, like, clawing at my eyeballs. They're like,
Oh, yeah,
"No,
no,
you're supposed to play, like, 1 or 2 cards, you just make, like, a zombie token, and you pass, and you attack," and I'm just like, "I need to do
good
13
clean
things."
magic.
Yeah, yeah. I just it's
No,
like,
I mean, I
"I'm
get it,
sorry,
like,
but that's not how we're wired."
look, man, I fully admit that over the past, like, 2, 3, 4 years, whatever, I've definitely changed in terms of,
I've seen it. I've
like,
I've 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 been here long enough.
yeah, it's just like I'm not the very stubborn, like, extremist that I was. I mean, I'm still got zealot tendencies because when you're like me, you become devoted to a thing and you're like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
flag bearer for casual. But
Devotion breeds, zealotry.
yeah, right. But like the whole point though is that I appreciate this sort of stuff. I just don't like my ADHD doesn't let me do this sort of thing because I would just be sitting there and I've got the, like not like the very focused, like, I gotta do 30 things type, but more like I'm easily distracted type, so if I've got a line that's, like, 12 cards long, I'm gonna lose it, like, 8 cards in and be like, "I don't know where I am anymore.
Oh,
Screw this, I'm
so
gonna attack."
when you play Storm or when you play a lot
Distracted
of
type, that's what
Nas,
it is.
yeah, when you play a lot of Storm and Nas, you learn, like, this very, like, you adapt this very, like, Bruce Lee, like, water mentality, like, just, like, think, like, there's, like people are like, "Well, what's your plan?" I'm like, "I don't know, I'm gonna cast Ad Nas, I'm gonna draw 30 cards, and we'll see what happens from
Yeah, it's
there."
like,
Like,
when I have my deck in hand, we can deal with what's gonna
we're
happen
gonna
after
we're gonna
that.
happen, but, like, plan A is cast Ad Nas,
Yeah,
plan B
win.
C
Yeah,
is plan win,
question,
yeah,
and
plan
win.
C, plan D, win, like, we're not too sure how plan B happens. It
Yeah, we
involves
get
a
there when we
lot of
get there.
yeah, it involves a lot of sacrificing Dargo.
Okay, so I want to talk about that deck for a second because that deck is
Yeah.
really ingenious and very clever. Because like when I saw Dargo, uh I was definitely like I'll be honest with you, I looked at that card and I did not see even playability in limited, let alone in like EDH. I was like, okay, this is some weird Gavin put this in here to make like limited work somehow. And then, so let me just read Dargo to the audience because y'all might just be like me and not be quite familiar with this giant pirate here. So, Dargo the Shipwrecker from Commander Legends is a 6 in a red, but you know, with a caveat,
6
6 in a
and a
red,
red.
6 in a red, 7/5
6 and a
giant pirate.
red.
But and it's got trample. And it's got partner because everything's got partner. So it's a 6 in a red, 7/5 trample partner that says, as an additional cost to cast a spell, you may sack any number of artifacts or creatures. This spell costs 2 less to cast for each permanent this sack this way, and 2 less to cast for each other artifact or creature you've sacrificed this turn.
That's the
So
one everybody misses.
yeah.
Because they're like because like, "Oh, I can sacrifice something to Dargo to make it 2 less." I'm like, "Yes, but if you have something that sacrifices itself, it also costs 2 less."
Hmm. So it turns out that, like, if you have a treasure in play, you can sack the treasure to pay to get 1 mana, and doing so, you also get 2. So basically, that treasure counts as 3 for the purpose of
Yeah,
Dargo.
yeah, yeah.
So, like,
Dockside makes a bunch of Black Lotuses.
yeah, it turns out every treasure you get's a Black Lotus for this guy, but
Jeweled Lotus
that's
makes
just that
5 mana.
oh god, that's just like surface level nonsense. Though, like your deck does dumb stuff. So
Yeah, well,
walk
there's
me
a
through the
lot of
central line here.
yeah, there's a lot of things about Dargo that are, like, a lot of fun, but, like, the fact that you can get down like, so you can cast him, like, really early, but that also means, like, he has a 7 CMC or yeah, he has a 7 CMC, uh, body. Oh, sorry, were you gonna abuse that? With cards like Sacrifice and Burnt Offering, where you
Mm,
get, like, what I like to call liquid mana, or, like, you get the mana back on Dargo. So you
mm.
can power out a Dargo for this mana that doesn't exist because there's like free mana that just comes out of nowhere. This extra 2 mana just doesn't exist really. But
Wait,
then,
what? Hang on. Back that up a step. What do you mean it doesn't exist?
so I when I talk about like Dargo, I get a little like the 2 floating mana because it doesn't actually exist in the mana pool. Dargo just costs 2 less
Just by default?
just by default. So like when you crack a Jeweled Lotus for 3 mana, you get
Yes.
a 2 a
Oh,
magic
you
what
get
I
your
call
2 mana discount. Yeah.
yeah, you get a 2 mana discount. So it's imaginary mana because it's not like
Right.
mana that you can actually use.
No, it's not mana that you can use. It's mana that's been committed to the idea of discounting.
Committed
Okay.
to the idea, exactly, to the idea of Dargo, but the burnt offering and the sacrifices transfers that fake imaginary mana back into real.
So sacrifice, what it says is, and this is a card I used to play back in like revised, so it's real fascinating that it's come back to me. This guy is an instant for 1 black that says as an additional cost to cast a spell, sack a creature, add an amount of black to your mana pool equal to sack creature's value. So if you sack a Dargo, you get 7 black mana.
Yeah, or burnt offering, which is
Which was
another
from Ice
one,
Age.
which does very similar, except you can it's even better because
Yeah, Burnt Offering lets you get any X mana in any combination of red or black.
any combination of red or black is like when you're primarily Rakdos seasoned with a little bit of white, because
Yeah.
that's you
Who do you
sacrifice
partner Dargo with?
Timna.
Timna.
Because if I personally, the one archetype that like you will never know by like if you scope my like socials or anything, like a lot of people like make jokes about like the one like the archetype they don't like. Me is stacks. I
Mm,
hate losing to stacks more than anything else because I like to do, like as we talked about, I like to do 30 things a turn. You can imagine that sitting there doing one thing per turn is like not the reason why I play Magic the Gathering.
sure.
So I need a deck that plays well into stacks, or I simply will not play it. Timna, drawing 3 cards every turn and beating the living face out of people with a 7/5 trampler is a fantastic rule of law plan because you can
Mm,
just grind anybody into the dirt, which like not a lot of decks have a giant in the command zone that you can just repeatedly like. Dargo comes down on turn 2. Like Dargo can come down on turn 1. Like I have Jeweled Lotus into a Rite of Flame and turn 1 a Dargo, and everybody's just like, "I beg your pardon." I'm like, "Yeah,
yeah.
yeah."
What 7/5 on turn 1 is pretty disgusting.
Anytime you have a Jeweled Lotus in hand, you have the immediate potential for a turn 1 Dargo.
I hate Jeweled Lotus so much. I
I
mean,
love it, but
it's I know who that card was made for, but I'm, like, using it over here to power out, like, Arcady Sabbath, and you guys are using it over here on, like, Universe Brain, like, just infinite
so the
loops.
universe brain is, so one of the amazing things that Dargo does is, so the thing that like again people miss is like it's like with the each other creature this turn.
Mm.
Dargo sees Dargo.
That's the part that when you told me that, I was like, "Oh my god, this is just the dumbest thing ever."
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. So not
if
only does Dargo cost red, he costs red the entire turn, as long as you keep sacrificing him.
yeah, so if you have a card like Jessica's Will that just gives you a grip of red for each card in hand, you can just go off with Dargo and just get, like, a
Yeah,
bunch of loops going on, right?
yeah, yeah. So like one of the so it's a graveyard. Like a lot of the CEDH decks use like every scrap of the like especially when you're on Breach. And one of the amazing things that was printed in white in the 2016, no, not the 2016, the what in the same thing Dockside was in 2018.
18, maybe?
Yeah, a lot of things
I
I
don't know,
pay
dude, they
attention to,
all
a lot
come
of
out
things
and
I
they all
can't
look the
remember.
same to me.
Savine's Reclamation.
Oh god, that card is so good.
Yeah, so getting that into the graveyard is like when you're on a breach plan is like a guaranteed way to win the game. So
Mm.
like when you've got an Altar of Dementia and then you like sacrifice Dargo with a burnt offering for like 7 red and then like sacrifice him to an Altar of Dementia 7 times.
That was in 19, by the way.
Oh yeah, in 19. Yeah, yeah. So like you
God, Savine's
sacrifice.
Reclamation and Dockside, jeez.
Oh yeah, you can Savine's Reclamation back your Dockside and an Underworld Breach, crack all the treasures, sacrifice because the another fun part is like these creatures like you can sacrifice things to Dargo to make it cheaper. Yes, that also means Dargo's a sacrifice outlet.
Oh,
So you can sacrifice things like
oh,
Dockside to Dargo to loop them back and reanimate them, and like you crack treasures, sacrifice the Dockside to Dargo, cast Dargo, reanimate Dockside, play Dockside again. So you can, and also like if you're trying to like fill your yard for breach, you can use Dargo says you can sacrifice any number, so you can overpay. You can sacrifice your entire board out to Dargo.
wh- what?
Yeah, it's not like it's not like a you have to pay
Oh, it
only
says
thing. It's like
any number. That
yeah,
is the
yeah. So you can
dumbest
just
thing I've
wipe
ever
your you can
read.
just wipe your entire board out. If you like say for even your sake, say you had like a blood artist and 30 tokens on the table, you could just literally sack Dargo. You could cast Dargo for 1 red and sacrifice all 30 of those tokens for blood artist effects.
That's so disgusting.
Yeah,
Oh
there's a
my
lot of
god, I
things you
need to
can.
put this guy into my Mardu Aristocrats deck or something.
Yeah, well, just be like the Mardu Aristocrats is like it just fits in there just because the very act of being an aristocrats deck and sacrificing things just means like, oops, I just made a mana crypt. Like I've played Dargo like so I've had turn one wins because which are like are some of the spiciest things. Like I had a like it was like a mold of 5 or something, but it was like land, mana crypt, jeweled lotus, tap mana crypt for 2, float the 2, tap jeweled lotus, sacrifice jeweled lotus for 3 red, so you have 5 and 2 floating with a mana crypt. Sacrifice the mana crypt as the additional 2. So now, like the act of sacrificing it for 0 has provided you a 2 colorless mana. You now have 7 mana for Dargo, cast Dargo. You now have a land and 2 colorless mana floating. Sacrifice Dargo to burnt offering off your land, cast Pier or Nas, and then just win
Jesus.
with floating mana because like you don't that's the thing about Dargo, like you just the act of cracking the mana crypt to Dargo is basically just like playing a mana crypt on itself, so you can have it floating over.
This is so stupid.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do. So one of the god senses we were in Kaldheim, we were given Bergi, so whenever you cast a spell.
Oh my god, Bergie. Yeah, of course. Every time you cast a spell, you get a red mana floating, right?
Yeah, so Dargo is a spell that costs red.
Oh my god. And you can just storm off then, right?
So
You
it used
just
to be the only thing that you could really do with and when Dargo was first printed before Kaldheim, one of the best things that you could be doing, which was like not that great, was Phyrexian Altar. Because
Oh,
like
hang on one second. So I should explain to people who might not be totally like in the know. When he says peer, he's talking about peer into the abyss, which is his card that came out in M21, which is completely just weird. It's 4 and 3 black for a sorcery that says target player draws cards equal to half the number of cards in their library and then loses half their life. So,
the card is not okay.
no, the card is disgusting and also just like completely broken. But yeah, and then the other one, ad nause, of course, the classic ad nauseum, which look it up. You guys know what ad nauseum does.
Yeah, it's like ad nauseum. I play ad nause because it is quite literally like I understand it might not be the most fun thing to watch. I get it. Uh I'll tell you as someone who plays it, it is objectively entertaining. Uh uh like when you
I've
are
seen people
sitting
die
there.
to ad nause. That's
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, 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 yeah. Like you're sitting there flipping the top, you're flipping the top, and you're like, can you're like sitting there like I guess other people are like, can he put it together? Like I get it. But when you're doing it, it's a lot of fun. And I recommend playing CDH so you get the chance to like come and do these degenerate things and then go back to just doing whatever. But I try and you're like trying to put together a win, like, can I do it? You
Okay.
literally get
Ad
adrenaline.
nauseum, for those who don't understand, an instant for 3 and 2 black for one of the classic legacy vintage like win conditions. Reveal the top card of your library, put it into your hand. You lose life equal to the converted mana cost. Repeat this process any number of times. So when you see people going off with ad nause in the classic tradition, it would be with one of those cards that says you can't die this turn.
Yeah, we
So
don't do that anymore.
yeah.
That
But
that
these
we
days,
stopped that in well not we like most people stopped the say the Angel's Grace in
yeah,
like
Angel's Grace and like it was a Phyrexian one, was it?
yeah Phyrexian on life.
Yes.
People stopped that in like that was like Zur used Phyrexian on life
God,
because
I hate
Zur.
Zur so much. Zur is a miserable deck to play.
Yeah, I played a Zur Voltron deck, and it just constantly just fetched out things to just punch people in the face. Because I will turn if I can make something into that's my favorite way to casual is Voltron. Because
Hmm.
like I like you, I get very attached to like having my legendary. Like it really it speaks to like who I want to play. Like I like it's a Timna deck. I don't talk about Timna. I talk about Dargo.
Hmm.
Like Timna is an enabler.
Yeah, Timna is there to give you colors, right?
Gives me colors and like 3 cards per combat because like like one of the like again the more things that Dargo does, like you please do not forget 7/5 Trampler. If you're in a gummed up board state and you need Timna attackers, your tutus aren't going in for anything. All of a sudden, now you cast a 7 like, there's been some
Yeah,
mid-range games that, like, there was someone gotten, like, a turn 2 Rule of Law, and, like, the game just goes long, and I'm just like, "Okay, hard cast Dargo for 7 mana, like, go to combat."
yeah,
Like,
it turns out, 7/5, will get there with commander damage. That's still 3 hits.
it's 3 hits, so, like,
Like, yeah,
it
it might not be a combo. I mean, people always say like, "Oh, CEDH is just combos and explosive." Like, no, dude. Sometimes traditionally just punching someone in the face will win the game.
so, like, the I in my Ashai primer, I liken a lot of, like, EDH and whatnot to, like, fencing, which is my hobby,
Mhm,
so, it like, a specifically longsword fencing,
mm,
like HEMA. Uh, a lot of fights are fought with the sword, like, you think, like, you want like, "Oh, it's all spell to spell, and you're fighting with blade." A lot of fights end up with 2 people on the floor punching each other in the throat with a dagger.
right?
Like,
Yeah,
so it's like there is literally uh God, James, Squirrel Mob on Twitter is running a CDH metagame breakdown, and like people
yeah,
submit their their games, how long they went, how they won, and like they collect. It's a community driven, like so it's imperfect data,
yeah, it's this
but
very interesting metagame project.
yeah. But one of the more interesting things is most CDH games are ending on turns like 4, 5, like 4, 5, and 6. Like 4 and 5 rather than like very rarely are they ending on 1 and 2. Like it is and like I personally like can you win on turn 2? Most CDH decks can. You know what? I've seen a lot of casual decks that can't. They're like, "Oh, if I get a god hand, I can win on turn 1." I'm like, "Yeah, how is your CDH deck on turn 4?" And that's what Timna does. And that's what Dargo does. They give you a mid-range plan of like I have gotten I've against a stacks deck like they'll hit an early rule of law or like something to stop me. I cast Dargo on turn 2, turn 3 I punch them in the face, turn 4 I punch them in the face, and then like I just hold that last punch over top of their head because now the rest of the table has to try and deal with them. I can end them at any time I want and try and win in my second main phase.
That's
Which I've just literally held, like I have, like there is a player I was playing against a friend of mine, she landed a rule of law and a null rod, and it was locking the entire table down to the point
oh,
where and I had them on 14 commander damage, but I realized my board state was so good and my game plan of just attacking and drawing constantly, playing fair magic, under the rule of law, I was winning that battle. So I just killed everybody else. I used their rule of law as my own rule of law to kill everybody else because my board state was just my commander state was just better.
yeah, because like, I mean, see, like in TDH games where they rely on locking people out and doing like a lot of these things, like rule of law, you can only cast one spell a turn. Null rod, you can't use your artifacts, whatever. Turns out you can still attack. You can still just turn sideways and
And
attack.
and you know who else shows up in CDH for exactly those reasons? And like everybody's like, who? Kamal.
Kamal Fisicrosa, the new one that like
Yeah, yeah.
overruns.
The overrun commander.
He's gross.
So what happens is you play a whole bunch of hate bears with no literally you don't play anything in the deck to
No,
win the
Heart of
game.
Crosa, not Fisicrosa,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. You play nothing in the deck to really win the game. You just play Thalias, Collector Oofs, the Rule of Law creatures,
Hmm.
uh, and you play fair magic up until the point where you can cast
Kamal.
Kamal, and then you beat everybody to death with 6/6s.
Yeah, it turns out when you have like a dude who gives all of your creatures +3/+3 and trample until end of turn at the beginning of every combat, you're gonna win. And then it's an activated ability that turns all like your random lands into 1/1s that then
Into
become
four, yeah, the
4/4
four.
vigilance, haste, indestructibles. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
fine.
yeah.
Fist to your
You're like
face.
that's a good late game plan. It's like if you wanted to apply enough rule of law and you basically force people to play casual magic with you and you just win.
I guess that's my entry into stacks. Is like I'm gonna force all you guys to play like chumps.
You to play casual magic with me.
Not stacks, CDH.
That's what like this deck does, and like a lot of commander like EDH players have come to CDH and be like because they're like I can just play this deck that does nothing but combat. Like between that and Winota. Winota is another
Winota is
one
so good.
because
Winota
like
and Nagila.
well, those two decks are major reasons why I think CDH needs to exist. Because you can't play those cards
No,
in
absolutely. I mean, look, okay. So first off, I think CDH needs to exist because I think you're absolutely right. There needs to be a place for people to be able to play these busted, broken, absurdly powerful cards without feeling bad about it. And
yeah.
like Nagila is a card that I've wanted to build around since it was printed, but it is so heinously broken and fast that I don't feel good about playing. Like even the most linear, even like my meme, it's 99 lands in Nagila and will win you the game, right?
Yeah.
Like, but in CDH, I can build just a stock Nagila deck and go to town, and it's not going to be there's no feel bad because it's CDH. Everybody else is trying to do some broken thing too.
And we're ready for it. It's like that's why like it's why when people
See,
keep
that's the thing.
talking
I
about
don't
like
want you to be ready for it. I want you to just sit and eat my fist to your face. But
well, we're ready for the experience. We're not ready
right.
for
Yeah,
the
exactly.
deck might be like a thing. It's about we're ready for that experience, which is like when the everybody keeps on saying like it's casual wishes it could do Rule Zero the way that CDH has been doing it.
I 100% agree. I think that like CEDH is probably the best expression of everybody sitting down and understanding exactly what they're here for. That
It
like
is the heart of casual Magic. I play I don't play tournaments. I don't care about competitive Magic. I play about playing the best Magic I possibly can play. I care about playing the cutting edge, the most powerful Magic I play,
yeah,
and I
like
can
I could
play
play
that.
a Corval deck in CDH and people wouldn't mind.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like just play whatever. Like it like does it slap? Let's go.
I think my one thing is I wish there was a high powered format that was in between CDH and like EDH, where it's just like I can play really absurdly broken strong cards without making sure it's super optimized. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to be able to play a I want to be able to play these like decks that are just busto without also having to dedicate like half my slots to, weird interaction and like dedicate like mental missteps and things like that, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I wanna be able to stuff my deck full of, like, high-powered junk and just go to town and have, like, 2 trains hit each other. But I don't know if that format exists, and if it does, it's called pub stomping. But I think if we found a tier that was, like, in between, like, super scrub tier and, like, very polished optimal tier, I think that would be a really cool place to be.
Should you should try out my you should see my casual deck then.
Well, I wanna build your Dargo deck is what I wanna do
Yo,
because that
you
looks
should
hella
do that.
fun, man.
It is. My casual deck is because like I hate salt. It's the reason why I stopped playing EDH in the first place. So I play a Karuga deck.
Yes.
Uh so it's got like all of the things that piss people off. It's mostly got none of them. Like it's got a force of will. It's got but like no fast mana, no tutors, no any of this stuff. I just
Because
stomp people
Karuga
with it.
says you can't have anything in your deck that's over 3
Under
mana.
3.
Oh,
Under
under
3.
3.
Not over 3, under 3.
Yeah, it's the
So
opposite of Lurrus.
yeah, yeah, it's the opposite of Lurus. However, what it does is whenever it ETBs, it draws a bunch of cards.
Yes.
So the two commanders that it's with are Sakashima and Kodama.
Oh god.
So
It's so gross.
no, I happen to be the only deck, and this is a deck that if you ever want to see what looks a casual deck made by a CDH player that like we're having a primer written and everything like it is a nothing under 3 CMC and it is cutthroat. I promise you. Uh uh like so it's got every way around the 3 mana clause. Like I've got gemstone caverns, ancient tombs, crystal veins. Uh, like I rock like Elvish Spirit Guide. That's a 3 CMC spell that gives you like 1 green for free. So there's been times that I've gone like ancient tomb, exile, Spirit Guide, play Azusa, land, go,
Oh, Jesus.
and it's all through under and like so people. It's the I don't know how to like pull my punches, so I'm going nothing under 3. All right, we good to go. You get a couple of turns. We going. So what happens is it's a Simic clones deck. More important thing, it's the only deck that the companion rule actually made better
Mm.
because Kodama gives you a free permanent from hand.
Mhm.
So the 3 mana to put Karuga in your hand, and then you get it for free.
Ah.
So it takes what would have been a 15 mana combo and makes it a 10 mana combo.
Oh God.
So you cast Kodama, then you cast Sakashima as a copy of Kodama. You then get a free Karuga from hand, which the other Kodama sees and says you may put something into the battlefield with 5 CMC or less. So you put a clone in from hand, copying the Karuga.
And then
Because
you
now
draw more cards?
and then you draw more cards, and then you stack the triggers from the two Kodamas. Because the other Kodama, because like when you have two Kodamas, they say you can put a permanent into the battlefield if this Kodama put it in. And the other Kodama says, "Well, I didn't put that permanent in, so you get to put a permanent in." So the other one goes, "Oh, I didn't put that one in, so you get to put another permanent in." So you create a feedback loop,
And
bouncing things.
because the new Sakashima basically says the legend rule doesn't
Doesn't
exist,
exist. You
so
end
you
up
can
with
make as
nine
many
copies of
clones.
you
Oh
end up
my
with 9 copies of Karuga and draw your entire deck,
holy crap.
or however many copies of Karuga it takes to draw your entire deck. And like, so it's once you hit the 10 mana and Karuga hits the battlefield and you've got a clone in hand, you're easily drawing 12 cards, which means you're going to draw into another clone. And then you get that clone for free. And
Oh
then
my
even if you
God.
like don't get the combo, you even still get to dump every permanent that you have because the entire deck is under 5 CMC. You get to basically just dump everything into play.
Dude.
Because like it like you get a land into play, and then the other Kodama will see like, okay, put a land in, and the other one will be like, okay, put a land in, and the one goes a land
Kodama
in.
of the East is such a
Yeah.
nutto card.
The only like the thing that holds it back is the fact that it empties your hand
Yeah.
really fast. Like so like when
You
I made my
but
first
gosh, it's Simic. You're gonna have so much trouble refilling it.
you'll have I've had a hard time refilling it. You
I
need
guess, yeah,
massive because you'll just dump like every permanent under your hand.
that is,
Like
I
it's
guess, the
gone.
one failsafe, and then, like, they wrath you, and you're like, "Oh, crap."
Yeah. If you don't protect it, you have what's in your hand. It's not like Krark where you get to copy one spell like 30 times.
Mm.
Like there used to be a cost for that. Like Underworld Breach, you need to exile things.
We
Yawgmoth's
used to
Will,
be a
you need to
society.
yeah, we used to be a society. Krark just then Krark shows up and all of a sudden you're copying a Jessica's Will 17 times with no interaction.
Oh, Jesus. Kark is a stupid card. I hate
Uh
that card.
I have questions. I have questions about the design choices on that. I wonder if it was a for fun thing.
I wonder if that was a bet that was lost. Like, that card is just it's so broken. Like, giving every God, I hate that card, but, I mean, I'm glad that it had managed to find,
It's a CDH card.
yeah, like, it's managed to keep itself at a play level that it's okay at. Like, Kark is, 4 Phyrexia, so 7 mana,
Oh
but
no,
not
I'm thinking Krark,
oh, Kark as in
the thumbless.
oh, the freaking coin flipper?
Yeah.
What?
No. Oh man. No, that card is absolutely mangled. That card is insane. That card is Underworld Breach. That card is Yawgmoth's Will. It's in the command zone. It's one
Kark
of the
the
more
Thumbless
Krark the Thumbless is one of the more disgusting things I've ever seen Wizards print.
in a CDH deck?
It is a massive CDH deck because it's Krark and Sakashima. It's another Krark.
Oh, for Christ's sake. Yeah,
Or
Kark,
they
the guy who's like, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, flip a coin, and if you lose, return it to your hand. And if you win, you copy it, and you can choose new copies. So yeah, if you're winning a bunch of coin flips, I can see that thing going like
well, you're
just
winning. No,
ham.
it's not the thing that you're winning a bunch of coin flips. You're winning and losing.
Oh, because you're saving your spell.
Yeah, you want to lose. You want to
Oh,
win 3,
because then
lose
you can
1.
just storm off.
Yes.
Oh, for God's sakes.
Now Jessica's Will.
Oh God.
Now, also let me think about Gitaxian Probe for 2 life. You cast your Ponder. For the Gitaxian Probe is basically Adnaz, and it just keeps bouncing back into your hand again and again and again.
Oh my God.
Jessica's Will, you just infinitely copy. Well, not infinitely copy, but you can like make 56 copies of Jessica's Will, and like
Wait a second though. Like, so if I cast Gitaxian Probe with Kark, does the spell doesn't resolve, does it?
yeah, you cast you pay 2 life, you cast the spell, Krark trigger. You say you have 2 Krark triggers. 1 Krark triggers, you win the flip, you copy.
Oh, because you got Sakashima to give you the other Kark trigger.
Yeah, exactly. So you have
Oh,
2
for
Krarks,
God's sake.
or you have Harmonic Prodigy, which was just printed, which
The one that
doubles
like wizards
yeah,
or something?
Wizards and Varen, the other one that was just printed. Anything that doubles triggers for spells, like Varen says, anytime you cast a spell, if that would double that permanent's that doubles a permanent trigger The one Voice of Duality, one blue and a red. If you casting a spell would cause an ability, it's the Panharmonicon for spells.
Okay, so the Veyron from the because I know I recently I've been seeing a lot of people talking about how Harmonic Prodigy or whatever is a big deal now, and I was like, that card? That
Yeah,
card
it's
doesn't
because of
seem
Kark.
that great. And it turns out, no, it combos with all sorts of things that I just don't play.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Damn.
Or another one that another card that was printed that turned that deck on its head was the dwarf that makes a treasure anytime you cast a spell.
Oh, that card is nutto.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
card is
But
so
like
good.
think about having two Karks, 2 to 3 Karks. Just think about 2 to 3 Karks and a Jeska's Will.
Okay, well, I now understand why it would be broken in half if you're just copying things.
The
If you have
exact
2
same
triggers.
spell. Now, if you want to know, now we've talked about the impressive thing. You want to talk about the frustrating thing?
Mm.
Deflecting swat.
Oh god, I love deflecting swat.
Yeah, but no, think about deflecting swat. When you try to cast something, there's 2 Karks on the table. They cast a deflecting swat. 2 deflecting swats trigger and hit your one thing, and then the deflecting swat goes back to hand. Or the force of negation, or no, or any kind of free counter like Mog
Mm,
Salvage. Any free spell, any like Kark is a 1 card combo with any free spell.
that is
Or yeah, it like if you want to know what hurts bad is when a Kark doesn't win and it has a deflecting swat, a fierce guardianship, and a Mog Salvage. Because no one's winning that game. No one's having a good time.
no, no, they're not. But I mean, I love deflecting swat. It's one of my favorite like
Oh
free
no,
spells.
deflecting swat is great. Like that was one of my arguments that nobody hates counter spells. They hate not having answers to counter spells.
Yeah. And
Like
it like the thing that sucks is like you tap out all your mana and then they just like force spike you and you're like, what the hell, man? Whereas
yeah,
if you have that free protection, then you're gonna at least have some way to make sure your big thing happens. But free spells are so bad for Magic, and I'm just so irritated that they exist. But at the same time, like those 5 free spells are just bananas.
yeah, I fierce guardianship and deflecting swat are my favorite. Like deflecting swat's my personal favorite because like I'm not playing blue,
Mm.
so I do enjoy it.
I like the white one a lot because it gives your whole team indestructible, and I'm a big fan of that. But even the green one, which is like a free fog is nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, in like the right meta. That's one of the
Yeah.
reasons. So these free spells are one of the reasons why like another commander that everybody thought was like a meme, like ha ha ha, like nobody's gonna do it. Rograk,
Mm. Rograk is dude, I don't know. The second I got Rograk and I first sacked it to the freaking Planeswalker, I
Tavesh.
was
Well, that's a CDH deck.
when you throw Rograk into Tevesh Sots and get like a 3 cards off it, you're like, oh, this is stupid. And then you realize how easy it is to get broken with that card.
So imagine that combo, except take Tavesh,
Rograk.
Rograk out and put Dargo in, because now
Oh,
you
gross.
you're casting Dargo for one like you're constant like so I wrote a primer on this. I was talking about the sacrifice math. Rograk costs less than Dargo to cast on the first cast. This is unequivocally true. It costs 0 mana. It's a free body. It comes down
Fair.
on 1 all the time. Dargo costs 1 mana to cast the first time. So Rograk costs the second time you cast them. Rograk costs 2 mana. Dargo costs 2 mana.
Huh.
The third time you cast, this is assuming the same turn. The third time you cast Rograk costs 4. Dargo only costs 3. So on turns when you want to like sacrifice you want to sacrifice your commander a lot of times, like Dargo becomes by the third sacrifice becomes the cheaper option. Dargo does not have the same ability to create an absolute horseload amount of mana on turn 1 though,
Mm. Yeah.
because like Rograk also gets to play with Mox Ruby.
What do you mean, Mox Ruby?
Mox Amber.
Oh,
You
right,
get
of
to
course.
add 1 red mana for any, or you get to add 1 color for any legendary you control.
Yeah, yeah.
So that becomes just a Mox. That's just
Yeah,
a
you're right. It's a Mox Ruby. You're right.
it's a Mox Ruby. It's like you just it just taps for red.
Right.
Like also cards like Culling the Weak just become 4 mana because you have a free body and you don't need to use the land to cast it.
Oh my god. This is
Jessica's Will. Jessica's Will fires on both modes on turn 1.
Jessica's Will is a card that I deeply underestimated until I played it. And the first time I played it, I was like, "Oh, this is the dumbest card I've ever seen in my life."
My 32 copies of Jessica's Will said I did not underestimate that.
Oh yeah, no, like I played it and I was like, "Oh, this is
It's stupid. Uh,
insane."
it's
Even at
stupid.
my tier, this is insane. And like I mean, I played on my in my freaking Mardu Treasures deck, and it's just like, "Oh my god, this is just free velocity. This is stupid.
It's
This is
seven.
stupid."
It's at minimum 6 mana and like possibly 3 cards. Like,
Yeah,
but like 6 red mana, like in,
you can do a lot.
you can do a
You could
lot. And like heaven forbid someone like the control player hasn't been greedy and drawing out, and like someone has a Ristic Study and no answer, and you like I've hit Jessica's Will for 18, and then I was just like, oh, I'm going to, like I ended up putting I put my entire deck in my graveyard with Dargo with like 10 mana floating. It's just like, oh well, what do I do from here? I'm gonna flashback past In Flames for like, yeah, okay. Give my entire library flashback,
This
and
is
then you
stupid,
just like
man.
then you just win from there. You just like, how do you win? Well, like the main win condition is Bergie plus Altar of Dementia, mill everybody out.
Mm,
Or mill yourself out, Praetor's Grasp someone's Oracle, crack LED, cast Oracle.
Praetor's Grasp.
Yeah, I
There's
love
a card.
Praetor's. I hate playing Oracle, but I'll play somebody else's.
I love Praetor's Grasp. I think that card is great. Um,
In an inbred meta, it's very useful because you're like, it's a tutor for like, depending on the decks that you're in, it can be it's for me. It's been a tutor for a tutor before. Like I've just Praetor's grasped someone's demonic tutor and then cast their demonic tutor to find the thing from my library.
mm, that's gross.
Yeah,
That's
or grab
gross.
their Dockside or their Underworld Breach, because like if they're in red, they're probably playing Dockside or they're probably playing Breach. So you can just Praetor's Grasp their Breach and just win off it, or just Praetor's Grasp their Breach. They can't win off of it. Go to the next turn, cast it, and win off of it.
So, Praetor's Grasp, for those of you who aren't remembering your new Phyrexia, a one black sorcery that says search target opponent's library for a card and exile face down. That player shuffles his or her library. You can look at and play that card for as long as it remains exiled. This card is absolutely nuts, and the fact that we all have a million treasures running around makes this thing even more broken than it was before.
Yeah, because you can just make any, like, that's one of the problems of like problems and whatever. One of the things about Dockside, Dockside beat the crap out of Blood Moon. Uh,
Yeah, it turns out all the things that would help limit people from being greedy don't matter when there's treasures in play.
yeah, because it's 5 color mana. It's like it's
It's perfect
uh
mana for everything you want all the time.
like you asked the poor question the other day. I laughed. Like, why are you guys running Tarnished Citadel? It bolts you for 3, but it gives you colorless and you or color. And they're like, literally, you got like 50 answers of perfect mana is
50
important.
answers? I
Yeah,
got like 300 answers.
300 answers of perfect mana important.
Yeah, and I was like, dude, but it's bolting you every time you tap it. But it
Doesn't
turns
matter.
out
We're here for
if
a
you
good time,
win,
not a long
it
time.
doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, yeah, I know. We're here for a good time, not a long time. You know,
Yeah,
one
right.
life, like 3 life is good as like zero. Is it 1 life? I still can win on that.
Yeah, like it turns out that if you were going ham, losing that 3 life didn't really matter. But
Not when I can cast Ragavan on 1 and add Naz on 2 without. I need to hit like red, and then I need to hit double black on 2.
okay, pause for a second. We're actually going to switch topics for 10 seconds here. Um, how did you get into CDH though? Like, where did you find it if you just started like playing in 2019 or whatever the hell it was?
So how did I find it? Spike feeders, and
Mm,
laboratory maniacs, and YouTube. I was smoking cigars on a Christmas vacation, lamenting about like combos and weird stuff, and I found people playing high power magic that I didn't understand, and it looked real. And I felt like I found a place that like it was like I found my people, and then
mm.
I just dove head first into it.
What was your first deck? That
My first deck that I put
was
like
it
that
Tossier?
my first one deck that I put no with Varolz.
Which one?
Varolz.
Varolz?
Oh my god, I love introducing you to like CDH commanders that nobody ever knows of. Varolz the Scar Striped, one green
Oh,
and a black.
Valrose.
Yeah, Valros.
What stupid fake names, man.
Yeah,
Yes, Scar Stripe. I
he
remember
has
him.
sacrifice a creature written on him.
Yes. He's like from yeah, because it was from Dragon's
Kingcraft.
Maze. I remember it's from the
Or
same thing
yeah,
that
Dragon
Tajik
Maze.
had. Varroz. You're right. It is Varroz. Varroz. I've been saying it wrong for decade. But yeah, this guy is like everybody gets scavenge, and you can sack another creature to regen him.
Yeah, but like we never regenting anything. It just says sacrifice
No, you're just
creature.
sacking. It's throwing things away. That's what it
So
is.
it goes turn 1 Dork, turn 2 Varolz, turn 3 Reanimate Hulk.
Yeah, yeah,
Pretty consistently.
fair.
Pretty consistently. Find a way to like so not only can you like reanimate Hulk, but like because it's a sacrifice outlet, you can not nature's the one where you enchant creature and if it dies, you go find another creature. Not nature's lore,
It's got it's yes,
nature's
it's like
will.
ancestral something. Ancestors, path of ancestors.
Yeah. Either
No,
way, so like
whatever it is. But
you
like a
cast
thing
that on.
dies and you sack it and you get another one, right?
Yeah. So you cast
Oh,
that
it's
on
a
your turn.
natural order.
Natural, yeah. You cast that on your turn 1 Dork. It dies. Go and find Pattern of Rebirth. Sorry, it's Pattern of
Pattern of
Rebirth.
rebirth. That's the one. I was like, it's one of these stupid
So
cards.
yeah, you either one. There's two of them. There's one that you, as a cost, you sacrifice a green creature and you go find
Yeah,
another
that's
creature.
natural order.
That's in there. Don't
Yeah.
worry, that's in there because that
Pattern of
finds the Hulk.
rebirth is the one that's you enchant a creature. When it dies, that creature's controller can search their library for a creature card and put it onto the battlefield. Card's great.
So basically, long story short, is I found CDH and started playing CDH because it's salt free.
Fair.
Like
It's
the
low sodium.
it's very low sodium. Like we talk about this a lot. Like the major problem facing CDH is like an elitist problem, but that's and like gatekeepery, but like that's elitist problem. But other
Mm.
than that, that's basically it. Like we don't really we like it's like we don't have to worry about power or struggle trying to find out what I like, what you like. We're not trying to play this who like I'm playing
I
it this.
think, and I say this every episode basically, the problem with EDH is not that we have power levels. The problem is that people aren't sitting at the right tables. If
Yeah.
we can get better matchmaking, if we make sure that the people who want to play vehicles, Voltron, and the people who want to play like Dockside Loops are not sitting at the same table
They do
trying to
not belong at the same table.
like no, they I mean like I look, everybody's like EDH is for everybody. I'm like, yeah, it is, but it also doesn't mean that we go and take like, the kosher and halal folks and take them to like the sausage restaurant for lunch. Like,
Yeah, it's a food court. There's
yeah,
lots of different things that you can. There's lots of different things that you can get it. Like and like it's like competitive EDH is still a casual format. Like it is still and like it's one of the things that I have constantly been like espousing from my little platform is that CDH is not a format. People are like, "Oh, I love the format." It's like it's not a format. It's a meta. It
mm.
like by the definitions of the rule format, it is not a format. Modern's a format, standard is a format. CDH is exactly the same thing as Commander. There is no
That's why. That's
discernible
the
rule
thing.
difference.
Like, I fully believe CD because we use the same rule set. We use the same card pool. We're just using different chunks of it.
Just intent and like people are like, well, that's amazing. It's a different like it's still it's like, but it's not. You're not playing casually. I'm like, I beg your pardon. I am very high with my friends talking the wildest crap possible. I assure you, I am very casual, and I am playing Magic for the exact same reason. Like, oh, like I like, why don't you just play Legacy? I'm like, because I can't play Legacy stoned with 4 of my buddies on web chat, like having a good time. Like, why would I want to play Legacy? I get it. I study Legacy because like I study Magic, but like I don't have any interest. I've studied Legacy strategies. I've gotten Legacy players into CDH,
Hmm.
which is very fulfilling because like I see them coming into the format and they have like their gripes with it, and like I just like it's one of those like, hi, I'm the welcoming committee. You don't belong anywhere near these people. Come with me. Come with me.
That's exactly the thing. It's like one of the biggest problems we have is that um, it's because of the fact that, and I run into this a lot because of my virtue of being on the CAG and whatever, is that there are people who are coming into the format from different places and they don't understand necessarily that we have different tables that you can sit at. And they'll come in and be like, "How come everybody's whining when I counter all their spells?" And I'm like, "Well," and they're like, "Nobody likes it when I just stone rain them or like Armageddon." I'm like, "Well, the thing is, there's like you know, you went to the table of people who want to play their spells, and there's another table of people who are totally okay with you trying to stop them because they're going to try to stop you. We just need to make sure that there's a queue that you can get in that'll shunt you this way or that way so that you're sitting at
Yeah.
the table you should be. Because there are people who are like, look, man, I'm a vintage player on the week, and on the weekends, I just want to unwind and play Elf Tribal or whatever.
Yeah,
And like,
and those people I hate.
we shouldn't segregate. We should just, I mean, we shouldn't be throwing these people out. We should just be making sure that they're sitting at the right place.
It's oddly enough, not even oddly enough, the people that I have found that hate CEDH the most are legacy players that play casual EDH to relax. They
Yes.
like they I found like I've gotten more vitriol from them than the more like than the most militant of casual. They're like, why don't you just play a real format? I'm like, that's like I always kind of like, why don't you just play a real format? Why don't you like, bro? Because I have no interest. Like,
Yeah.
like it doesn't like I'm not like, and plus like a shy deck uh would be a lot easier to play if it was it's just like it's just Marktide.
Mm.
It's so much like people are talking about it's like, oh, it's harder. I'm like, I wish I could play 4 copies of Force of Will. I wish I could play 4 copies of like Fierce Guardianship. I wish I could play 4, like it would make my life a lot easier trying to play, but like singleton nature of EDH makes a lot of things difficult. But yeah, either way.
Yes.
Uh
Okay. So enough of that. Let's use the last. Okay, this is, folks. This is probably going to be a longer than an hour episode because we've barely
we
started.
haven't even talked about food yet.
We haven't talked about food yet. Like, okay, look, you and I, besides the fact that we're on polar opposites of this field, but honestly, we're not really on polar different sides of this. I think we both come from the same place, but we're just aiming in
Very
different
similar.
directions. Like, your decks are the most, like, of the hundreds of CDH decks I've seen. Your decks are yours and like Rebels are the ones that most appeal to me. Because like when I was first introduced to the format, there's a lot of people like, okay, well try Gitrog out. I'm like, Gitrog is not a deck. Gitrog is like a
Way
spreadsheet,
of a
and
way
like
of
it's a way of
life.
life, and like it's like you're dedicated to the cause if you're Gitrogging, or like, and it was all flash Hulk, and it was just not fun. But you guys approach the format in a way that speaks to a more relaxed mentality when building, but still does heinously powerful things, and that's fun, and I'm here for that. But you know what? We've talked enough about that, so
Well,
should we keep going?
I can segue into it. So I cook and build very, very similarly.
So your decks are all full of like just painful spices that
Oh, my food,
yeah, that are interactive.
my food is like so my the way that my brain works and that and how it like it gets into cooking and into like how I lend it into EDH is I get something, I see something and I get an idea, and then that's an inspiration, and then you
Mm,
start going to be like, okay, what are the things that you know that work with that, and then you start grabbing that and you start building and then you have something and you're like, oh, this is good, and then you start the refining process. So that's the same way that I'll make a dish. I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna grab Brussels sprouts. What are good with Brussels sprouts? I don't know. I like dried fruit. Okay, well, so honey. Well, like I've got some meat.
mm.
I've got this. I've got like this. I'm so like,
The way
what are
I
the
like
things
to
that
do Brussels
complement?
sprouts,
Hmm?
the way I do Brussels sprouts is I roast them with honey and walnuts,
Yeah,
and then toss them together with like salt, pepper, and oil,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
that way you get that sweetness and crunch in there. Because
yeah, yeah. You
I don't
have to
like
have it.
Brussels sprouts without that crunch. It's not fun.
So whoever taught so many people to boil their Brussels sprouts was
Should be
lying to them.
shot.
Should be shot. You can ask any Eastern European, and you do not boil cabbage.
No, it's every time I see. And this is gonna be one of the most like classist things I ever say, but every time I see an American cook cabbage and it's just this pile of glop that's boiled inside, I'm like, no wonder. Like when I look at these things like broccoli and Brussels sprouts and cabbage and things, and I see how many Americans just absolutely loathe these, and then I look at the way that
They cook
white
them.
America cooks them, I'm like, well, dude. If I was obliterating these in like boiled water and then just leaving all the bitterants in there, I would hate them too. Like, these are
Yeah,
foods that you can't cook like that. You're like,
it's my problem with American
if I
eating
put a
is that
steak in a blender and then give it, like, juice and give you
not
steak
going to be good.
juice, you're gonna be like, "This is disgusting."
Oh, well, a lot of the things when it comes to a lot of cooking and like I exist in the culinary world, so I have opinions. A lot of people covered for the fact that they can't cook by only cooking the best things. Like it's like people are like, "Oh, I made this A5 Wagyu. It was delicious." I'm like, "Of course it
Yeah,
was. No,
it's
of course it was." Like I have this AAA top prime rib that I cooked with like they'll put a probe thermometer in it with an app.
mm,
Follow it the whole way along. The app will tell them when it's at the perfect temperature. They will take the probe thermometer out and like they're like,
mm.
this prime rib is delicious and turned out perfect. Like,
Yeah, you did because
no,
a program did it.
no, you didn't. Like like cook a vegetable. Like show me some
Yeah,
sh-
like you want to prove to me how good of a cook you are, then go and make me a perfect bean. Show me a bean
yeah, like some
that or
beans.
like show me how you cook a green bean and then we'll talk. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
like
like I had some green beans the other day that I like pan blistered with some like chili crisp and a fried egg, and it was delicious.
mm. See, the way I do it is I would chop them up and then pan fry them in a plate that's got ajwain, which is an Indian spice,
Yeah,
and then mustard seed and mustard oil and salt and pepper, and you like basically saute them, stir fry them, and it gets this, and then obviously like chili pepper, and it becomes this just really smoky, heated, like oily kind of absolute deliciousness when you put it on top of rice or with a
yeah,
roti or
yeah.
something. It's like, oh god, come on,
That's like the desi version of like having that like hot spiced
yeah,
oil, like of like the Chinese
yes,
version, which I make is like where like is what
yes, oh
with like
god,
chili oil. But it's like so when you start deconstructing, my favorite thing is like you want to talk about philosophical is like when you stop looking at ingredients, like when you get to like the bell curve, like you get to the other side of the bell curve, you stop seeing like ingredients, you stop seeing a recipe whatsoever. You see a certain amount of base flavor profile. So like when I talk about
yes,
Brussels sprouts with people, I'm like, we're gonna cook them like this. Okay, so we put in honey, we put in vinegar and mustard, and we put in maple, we put in vinegar and mustard, and we're gonna put in some nuts or like something else. And I'm like, okay, so now we're gonna take the same idea, we're gonna change like the vinegar to like or we like to maybe like a wine or something else kind of acidic. But
mm,
we're gonna change the like so you keep uh the methodology of looking for a sweet vinegar to balance that out and like a cheese or a nut to like give it like
mm.
some texture or whatnot. And then once you've figured out that trio of like those
Yes,
base flavor profiles that just work, you're free to just like, well, I want apricots, honey, or like apricots are like would be good, or maybe some dried raisins, or like raisins in beer. That sounds good. Why not try that? Like, I don't know if it will work, but like there's enough
ugh,
foundation
ugh,
of
ugh.
like
The
rum and raisin. I grew up on rum and raisin, so like
rum
I
and
do.
raisin is one thing, but like beer has got this weird like flavor that's, I guess there's an acidity. I
Beer and
mean,
apricot, like that sounds good. There's apricot flavored
sure,
beers.
I could give you apricot and beer, fine. Like one of my favorite drinks in the world is apricot brandy, but
Oh
like
yeah,
I'm a big fan of like the apricot. I don't. When I grew up, I had an apricot tree in my backyard, which made me hate apricots because I had a billion of them every year. But apricot flavor infused in things is a really interesting taste. But beer, the only beers I like to actually cook with and stuff are like wheat beers that have that kind of more
yeah.
citrusy note, because I find the other ones too
So
beer forward.
you don't want an IPA for a lot of cooking
God,
with
dude,
beers, is because
beer
those
that eats like a
tannins.
meal.
Yeah, well, it's like that, and those bitters reduce. They don't burn off, so you end up
Right.
with like some
Concentrated.
concentrated. I like and that sounds like it's like someone put a penny in your mouth, and I'm not really about that.
Oh, that's gross. Yeah, no, and it's like I don't know. I cook a lot of bread, so I've been working
Yeah, I
on
know.
putting a
I
lot
remember
of.
when you started on your sourdough mission.
I've been doing sourdough since before the pandemic, man. I just started putting pictures up, but like I just love baking. Like I love cooking and I love baking, and it's weird because like my culture is not a baking culture; we're a cooking culture. But
No, yeah, yeah,
like I love bread and I love cheese, so I'm like, let me make vehicles that'll let me eat manchego all the time, and that's good times. Um,
yeah.
Like today I had a pizza with a friend of mine and we went out to lunch, and it was a thin cracker crust pizza, so it was like cornmeal dusted, and then on top of it had manchego cheese, um, cream, and then roasted cauliflower, so
Mm.
purple and white cauliflower, and it was just absolutely delicious, especially when you spiked it with a little bit of lemon and a little bit of chili. Mm.
Well, like some of my favorite like when you talk about
What type of food
flatbreads,
do you make normally?
what type of food do I make?
Yeah, like you're a chef. What is your focus?
Oh God! So my focus is on Canadian food,
Mm.
and
Moose.
so and then I'll have to try and define what Canadian food means to me. Canadian food to means to me is food that is local with traditions that are global.
Mm.
Like so stuff that I make dandelion kimchi or stuff like with my dishes.
Oh.
Like, cause
Oh,
I
I could see
learned.
that being real good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, like, the thing is like, I learn from people. I learn from being included in people's cultures. I learned Indian food from my Indian friends' mothers. I learned
I mean,
Korean
you live in
food.
Toronto, right?
I live in Toronto.
Yeah, where it's
So,
like one of the most multicultural cities in the
yes,
North
yes.
America.
Like, people find it weird that, like, I am not uncomfortable not understanding anything in the room that I am in. Like,
Oh,
I
that's
can
my
be
favorite place to be.
yeah, I can be in a room and, like, people are speaking languages that I don't understand. I'm like, "Oh, this is great. I don't need,
Let's go, let's go.
like
This is gonna
like,
be
oh,
awesome.
great. I don't need to accidentally eavesdrop on anybody. I'm good. I don't understand anything. I'm great. I can shut my brain out." Like,
Yeah.
but, like, I grew up in a very Punjab neighborhood. So I was like ingrained in the culture, into the food. We did not have pizza day at my school for for fundraisers. We had
Yeah.
samosa day.
Mm,
So like
yes.
I would get like a half dozen samosa and chutney, and like just go
Yes.
like and like lassi, and like it's like that would be like my lunch. And
Here
like
for it. Here
yeah,
for
yeah.
it.
But like I also, where I live right now, I live in Little Portugal. I walk down the street, I go to Little Ethiopia,
Mm.
and then I make a left-hand turn, I walk a couple of blocks, and I'm in Little Korea. So my food is very
Oh, that
influenced by
sounds
the fact.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So like I will make Ethiopian fried chicken. It's like something like I made a fried chicken, 'cause they have a flour, the bread injera
Mm.
is made from a grain called teff, which is a
Yes.
gluten-free flour. So I found
Teff
a
is
way.
wild. It is a
Yeah.
really interesting and hard thing to cook with.
Yeah, because you have to ferment it for it to form a chain, and then once it does, it forms not a gluten, because it's gluten free either way.
Yeah.
Um, so like I made a fried chicken, but battering it in teff and then using mitmita, which is a Ethiopian spice blend
Yeah.
with like honey, so like an Ethiopian hot honey fried chicken. And I marinate it in buttermilk and bearberry. So
Mm.
like marinated, it was all marinated in Ethiopian spices. It tasted like Ethiopian food, but why is the southern food in front of me taste like Ethiopian food? Because it was made by a deranged Canadian.
Dude, the thing about Ethiopian food that like the first time I had it, and Ethiopia is one of the few cultures that because they're old school traditional Christian, they've got a very, very robust vegetarian culture.
Very
Because old Christianity had a lot of fast days where you can't eat meat or whatever. And
yeah.
because of trade and where Ethiopia is, their food ends up tasting a lot like it's like Bizarro World Indian food. And I love it because
I
injera is like so, so good.
So two things. One, being someone who studies historical European martial arts and like enjoys history, I wholeheartedly love the idea of the Crusaders coming back to Africa to like convert everybody to Christianity,
And
and
they're
they
already
show up
there.
in Ethiopia and are like, we know more than you.
Yeah, it's like, bro, we've got churches that are older than your country. Maybe
Yeah,
chill
yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, it's like we know more. We know more.
We
You
wrote the
mean
book.
you mean
Relax.
Christ? He was like from down the Chris from down the street. Yeah, yeah, I
Right?
knew him. Yeah, like so you
Oh
heard
man.
legends. He was from like over
Yeah, dude.
there in like
I know.
Israel, which is
Ethiopian food is so good.
yeah.
Oh,
It's like
so good.
on the other side
Korean
of
food's
this.
my other food favorite
Well,
food.
so one of my favorite experiences, and like again, I love experiences. Was like I sat down in an Ethiopian restaurant for the first time, and I did not know what to get. And I was like, "Oh, I'll get this and this." And the Ethiopian lady goes, "No, that's too much. You just get this." And I'm like, "Okay." Uh, so she then comes out, and like I grew up eating Indian food, so like I thought I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like, so I grabbed the bread, and I'm like, First off, there's no knives and forks.
No.
There's none. There's none. I remember this couple that was there, like, "Excuse me, can we get a knife and fork?" And she just again looks at them, no, and just walks off. Just
Because okay, so for those of you at home who don't eat Ethiopian food, the way I've seen it served is normally the injera is this big like sourdough kind of like
crepe.
flatbread, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's been raised a bit. It's got bubbles, but it's like the
It's
texture of
crepier
foam.
in texture than it
Yeah,
is a bread. And it is, yes, it is a
it
bread,
feels
but
more like a foam pad than
yeah,
anything
yeah,
else.
it's very crepey.
Yeah, and it's like puffy and it bounces and it's awesome,
It's
but it
cooked
also
on one
makes up
side.
like the serving plate, and they
Yes, it's the
scoop
serving
all the
plate and
shock.
the utensils.
I don't know what the word for shocker. The stuff, the chopped
There'll be a
vegetables
lot of
and meats and
lentils,
whatever.
cabbage,
Yeah, like
beets.
in my language, Gujarati, shock is a word for curry, like stewed
Yeah,
vegetable thing.
curried foods.
Yeah, or sabzi if you're in Hindi language.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, they
Or
scoop the vegetable
they
thing.
have that in Iranian.
Yeah,
Uh,
sabzi means vegetable in
yeah,
Iranian too.
satsi. Yeah. So I also worked at an Iranian restaurant. So
Oh, there you go, dude.
I've had to serve tables and be like salam chitori khobam
Oh,
nashijon.
Oh, oh, that is good accent, my dude.
Oh, yeah,
Persian's a hard language.
well, so that's one of the things, like, when I speak Spanish, I sound like a Mexican. When I speak,
You speak
French.
like food language.
Yeah, yeah, when I speak it like, if I speak Italian, I sound like an Italian. Like, I absorb the languages of the accent, like, I'm Canadian. Like, and
Ye
I embrace that part of my culture.
Oh,
Like,
it's so much fun, so much
I
fun.
embrace my Canadianness.
Yeah, but pull back a step. So they scoop the food on top
Yeah.
of the injera, you tear off the piece, and then you eat it with the injera bread, you scoop into the curry or vegetable, whatever it is,
Yeah,
and so your
so
plate is also your utensil.
your plate is also your utensils, so that's the thing that I didn't know, because 'cause I'm used to Indian food where you, like, pinch out like a you
Right,
use it like you
exactly.
pinch. So with Ethiopian food, you scoop. You
Yes.
go down to the bottom of the plate and make a pocket with the bread that's on the bottom and pick
Yes,
that
and
up,
pull up. It's
instead
like
of just
it feels like one of those games at an arcade
it's a
where you're the
claw. Yeah,
claw machine.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how to do this. So I'm trying, like, there I am, 6 foot clumsy white guy, like, like I'm eating with my hands wrong. It must have been really entertaining. Um, like for other people, like I'm aware of like the funny, like it's like, oh, look at this silly guy doesn't know how to eat with his hands. I'm like, I don't want to eat with my hands, just not like this. um,
Yes.
so she just goes, no, no, like this, grabs my food, sticks it in, puts her hand, tilts my head back, and pops it in my mouth like a baby bird. And I'm just like, no, no, I'll take a bullet for this place. And it's like my
Right?
yeah, I was like, no, no,
I
this is it.
love it when you go to a place and, like, they see you and they're like, "Okay, you've got sincerity." So you're trying, and if you're trying, they're going to give you feedback and they're gonna feed you, and they're gonna feed you until you understand, and, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love that, like, that's how I learned, like, to eat Japanese food when I was a kid, when I was rather not a kid, but when I was living in Japan, they'd be like, "No, you eat it like this," and they would basically take my hand, point the chopstick, and say, "Dip this into this and eat it like that," and I'm like, "I get it."
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels good. It feels so good, and it's so much fun to be taught like
So,
that.
like, being Torontonian and growing up eating a lot of, like a lot of, like, Pan Asian food, because like, one of my favorite styles of cooking, like, I love cultural, like, the cooking styles of I've been trained in the cooking styles of the West.
Mm,
That's always been, like, a thing that, like, a part of my culture, like, we study French food, like, that's just always a
yeah.
thing. But my passions, what I started like, when I was watching TV as a kid, was Martin Yan.
Yes.
I
Martin
like
Yan spoke at my graduation.
Yeah, yeah, you said that, I'm, like, so jealous. One of the
Dude,
major
this guy's
influences in my
hero.
life. Um, but I've always been, like, fascinated watching those cleavers go, so, like, I've always been, like, Chinese food is, like, some of the most, like, I have a respect for that. But
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
it's
I love Chinese food. I love Asian food so much,
yeah.
and, it's just God, I mean, here's the thing, like, I'm, like, a hardcore foodie and a vegetarian, so that means I have to, like, dig to find the things, but, like, dolsot bibimbap, which is stone pot bibimbap from
Yeah, yeah.
Korea, one of my favorite things in the world to eat because the rice gets crusty at the bottom.
So, there is no word in the English language for crispy rice at the bottom of the pot.
It is
There's
the greatest food in the world is what it
most
is.
every single language. In Spanish, it's called socrat, and soca in other languages. But like, I think in India, like, there's a specific word for the browned crispy rice at the bottom of a pot. We do not have that in English because we're not a rice culture, and
Much
I
to
think
my
that's a
dismay.
failing. Like, I just
Yes.
think that's like that's a shot against us.
Dude, the fact that in the West, our idea of rice is comes out of a box and you put butter on top of it is just, like, offensive to me. I mean, not offensive to me, I don't mean it like that. People, I
Yeah,
understand, like, I got into a lot of fights with Southerners who were like, "Look, man, this is what we ate." And I'm like, "I'm not trying to, deny your culture or your upbringing, but when I was raised in rice is the vehicle for food. It's not necessarily the food unto itself. In
yeah,
India, rice is like a utensil that you use to hold your dal and to bring it to your face, right? Or like in South India, for instance, when I go to South Indian food, I'm a North Indian, so it's like
yeah, yeah,
foreign to me. But basically, you've got a big banana leaf that's out there, and it's up at like a 20-degree angle, kind of propped up, leaning down towards you. At the bottom is a big well of rice that's been mounted up there, and then they'll put the different like curries in like kind of this semicircle above the rice, and you will basically just drag the curry down with your hand into the rice, scoop it up into your mouth. So it's kind of like you're sitting at like almost like a laptop. Effectively, your thing is like tilted upwards when you're eating traditional banana leaf style, and it's wild and amazing because in the north we eat everything with like chapati and rotlis and
mm.
like breads. but they're not. They're rice people down south, and my family used to make fun of me and call me a Southie that was like lost in the family because I prefer rice to wheat based things. So I
Oh,
would
yeah.
eat rice all the time.
Naan is one of my favorite forms of like I'm an enjoyer of
Naan
bread
is
in all
restaurant
forms.
food, man.
Oh, like that I love chewy like I love different types of bread, but that chewy buttery
Yes,
oh,
and the bottom is like crisp from the tandoor. It's like,
mm.
oh
Like in the burnt bits, like
yeah,
the char and it's just like smoky.
yeah,
Oh.
dude. I mean, until you watch a rotely puff up on your stove underneath like the
Mm,
heat, and you're like, it's got the brown bits where it's on the
mm.
yeah, gosh, okay. Oh man, food is like my passion. It's like
I've
the thing
spent
that
20 I don't know if you can see it, I'm covered in tattoos. I've spent okay, so, like, I've been doing this shit sorry, I've been doing this my entire life. Like, so I was a toddler playing in my grandma's kitchen. We used to,
mhm.
race lobsters because that used to be poor people's that used to be poor people's food when I was a kid. Race lobsters across the floor, and, like, I would bang pots and pans as a kid and, like, pretend to cook chestnuts. I got an Easy Bake Oven and a Fisher Price kitchen. Uh Like, when I said I wanted to go to culinary school, my parents were like, "Yeah, we're not surprised."
Go figure.
Yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
if I could get away with it, I would, because I love cooking. I mean, even though I don't eat it, I love, like, the idea of making stock. Making stock makes me happy because, like, I grow a garden every year, and it's huge and full of things, and my favorite part is pulling everything out and throwing it into a stock pot that I can then have stock for the rest of the year. And, like, making sauces, and, like, Western cuisine, I really just enjoy I like, I love making things, like, very simple things, like corn soup, or,
Mm.
like, I've got a fridge full of beans that I grew this year that I've been making into
You
soups
ever
and
made
stocks and
succotash?
tacos. I don't, because that's too dry for my personal preference. It's not the kind of way I wanna eat things, and also I don't like lima beans, but,
Oh.
like, I love cooking things. I love the act of slicing stuff up,
I
like
like cooking for other people. I don't
yes,
I
yes,
I make mac and cheese for myself and will cook my dog
same,
dinner.
same. Same. I love mac and cheese, and I love cooking for other people. That's why I enjoy bread so much, and my wife had she tolerates all my hobbies, but she likes that one the most because she's like, "Look, when you buy magic cards, that makes you happy, but when you buy bread, I can eat that." I'm like, "Fair, fair." Like, I'm making cinnamon rolls for her right now, so that's gonna be fun. Um, but you know what? We've been talking for a long time, and my video editor will hang me if we go for too much longer. So if folks wanted to this has been awesome. This has been really cool.
Anytime.
Thank you so much. I love this. We should do it again.
Yep.
And try to make it easier this time. Maybe not spend another year and a half trying to do it. But if folks wanted to find you or find your deck list or find whatever, I know you're on TikTok and stuff, but where can they go and see
I'm
your
not
stuff?
very active on TikTok. It turns out once you get as you know, turns out once you get a certain size, the platforms becomes almost unusable.
Oh, fair. It is
And at
true.
120,000 followers.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah. So you can find me on Twitter at the Hermit Druid, and that's where you'll find me pretty much all the time, every day.
Yeah, pretty much. And as always, you can find me at Gear Report Gears. You can find this podcast anywhere podcasts are sold, or at Cool Stuff Inc. on Tuesdays and on YouTube now. And remember, my friends, it is not magic without the gathering, and we will see you next time.